Hello and welcome to Card Advantage. Today's game will be a four-way chaos match with Miguel piloting Ojer Kaslem, Elder on Pantlaza, Mike with Karametra, and me, your host, debuting my new Saheeli deck. Let's go! I draw my starting hand and see Cursed Mirror, Ichor Wellspring, Vandal Blast, Force of Negation, Scrap Trawler, Training Center, and Ancient Tomb. My hand only contains 2 lands, but one of them is an Ancient Tomb, and I have Ichor Wellspring to help me draw into more, so I decided to keep. No mullies for me this time. Mike wins the die roll, so he goes first. He plays Savannah and taps it for an Elvish Mystic. I go second. I draw a mountain, play Ancient Tomb, and cast Ichor Wellspring. I take 2 damage and draw a card, and I couldn't be happier with what I see off the top of my deck. It's Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. This card, if left unmolested, will help me rip through my deck like nobody's business. Miguel plays a land and passes the turn. Elder, going forth, does the same. Mike, now on his second turn, plays Dryad Arbor and Nature's Lore, ramping an extra land onto his board before passing the turn. I draw a Force of Will, play a land, and cast Scrap Trawler. Scrap Trawler is a 3/2 artifact creature, and it makes it so whenever it or another artifact I control goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, I can return another artifact with a lesser converted mana cost from my graveyard back to my hand. For his second turn, Miguel plays Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, and then casts an Arcane Signet. Elder gives me a case of deja vu by playing a land and passing the turn again. My entire life flashes before my eyes on Mike's third turn when he plays a land and then casts Aura of Silence. This is a major problem for me because Aura of Silence increases the cost of all my artifact spells by 2 mana, and I'm planning to play a lot of artifacts in this game. Even worse, I'm in blue and red and don't have many cards in my deck that can destroy it once it's on the field. This card will single-handedly shut down my game if I let it resolve. I absolutely hate to do this, but I have to counter it if I can. I cast Force of Negation, pitching Force of Will to counter his Aura of Silence. It's a high price to pay, but well worth it. On my turn, I draw an island and play Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. Now, I could have safely attacked with Scrap Trawler to get in an easy 3 damage on one of my opponents, but I totally forgot to. Miguel plays Kodama's Reach and then a land. On Miguel's end step, Elder plays Eladalmer's Call, searching his library for a Delighted Halfling and putting it into his hand. On his turn, Elder plays Delighted Halfling and Soul Ring before shocking a land into play. Mike plays Herald of the Pantheon. Now, his enchantment spells cost 1 less to play, and he gains 1 life whenever he casts an enchantment spell. I draw a land, play a mountain, and cast my commander. Since Saheeli is a historic spell, Joyra triggers, which allows me to draw a card, which is a land this time. Then, I play Cursed Mirror, draw another land off Joyra, and have the mirror enter the battlefield as a copy of Scrap Trawler with haste. I attack each opponent for 3 damage, which they let through. Miguel plays and sacks a fetch land, plays a Thought Vessel, and then casts his general, Ojer Kaslem, the Deepest Growth. His general is extra nasty because whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, Miguel gets to reveal a number of cards equal to the damage and put a creature and a land into play from among them. And Ojer is a big, trampling mamma jamma. So, jump blocking isn't an option. Elder plays Pantlaza, Sun Favored. Pantlaza has a triggered ability where whenever a dinosaur comes into play under Elder's control, he gets to discover X, where X is the dinosaur's toughness. But it only works once each turn. Elder discovers for 4, revealing and casting a Kodama's Reach. He puts a mountain into play tapped, and then plays a Guy's Cradle from his hand. Mike plays his commander, Karametra, God of Harvest, and gains 1 life off of his Herald. Karametra isn't a creature though, because Mike lacks sufficient devotion. I draw Blightsteel Colossus, and then activate Saheeli's ability to copy Ichor Wellspring. When the copy comes into play, I draw Soul Ring. I play a land, play Soul Ring, draw Mox Amber, play it, draw a land, thanks Joyrock, and pass the turn, sacrificing the Ichor Wellspring token at the beginning of my end step and drawing Urza, Lord High Artificer, off of its death trigger. Miguel plays and sacrifices a fetch land, and then plays Swiftfoot Boots and attempts to attach it to his general. The other 3 of us find this very concerning, because Miguel's deck is packed with game-breaking monsters, and if he connects with his commander, he'll probably put one of them onto the battlefield for free. And with the boots on, we won't be able to target his commander with removal anymore. I think about returning his commander to his hand with my Otawara Soaring City, but Mike beats me to it. Mike casts Swords to Plowshares on Miguel's general, gaining Miguel 6 life and putting Ojer Kaslem back safely in the command zone. Elder plays a land and casts Dockside Extortionist, creating 8 treasure tokens. Then he plays Curious Altasaur, triggering Pantlaza for 5. Elder discovers and casts a Ripjaw Raptor. Then, from his hand, he casts the Skull Spore Nexus. He attacks Miguel with Pantlaza for 4, connects, and draws a card off his Altasaur's triggered ability. Mike plays Greater Aromancy, giving his enchantments and enchanted creatures Shroud. He then plays Song of the Dryad on Elder's commander, turning the mighty dinosaur into an impotent basic forest. I draw Talisman of Curiosity, play a land, and then play Urza, Lord High Artificer, drawing Gleaming Geardrake thanks to Joyra, and creating a construct token when Urza enters the battlefield. I then use Otawara to return Cursed Mirror to my hand. I play Cursed Mirror, attempting to copy Elder's Dockside Extortionist for those sweet, sweet treasure tokens, but I messed up and announced what I wanted to copy while my Cursed Mirror spell was still on the stack. Elder responded by casting Teferi's Protection, causing all of his permanents to phase out. At least I still draw a card from Joyra's trigger, and this time I draw a Fierce Guardianship. As the mirror comes into play, I choose to copy the construct instead. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have copied Ichor Wellspring instead, so that I could at least draw a card off of it. I then play Talisman of Curiosity, and draw Jessica's Will. I play Gleaming Geardrake, and draw Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, and create a clue token when the Drake ETBs. I decline to attack to leave mana up in case I need red mana during my opponent's turns. Miguel recasts his general, successfully equips the boots, and then attacks Mike, who lets all 6 damage through. His general's ability triggers, and Miguel reveals a land and Avenger of Zendikar, creating 7 0/1 plant tokens. He then pops a fetch land, which results in each of his plant tokens receiving a +1/+1 counter. So he's got 7 1/2s now. He then passes the turn to Elder. Elder plays a land and attacks Miguel with Ripjaw Raptor and Mike with Curious Altosaur. Mike lets the damage through, and Miguel blocks the raptor with 4 tokens. But Elder activates the Skullspore Nexus to double his dinosaur's power, killing the 4 tokens. Elder draws a card off the raptor's Enrage trigger and another off the Altosaur's combat damage trigger. Here, I think the raptor should have actually died, but we all messed up. We all thought that Skullspore Nexus doubled his creature's power and toughness, but a careful reading of the card would have revealed that it only doubles a creature's power and not its toughness. So, the 4 damage from Miguel's 4 tokens should have been enough to kill it. At least, that's what my mom told me when I asked her about the card later. Luckily for Elder, none of us know how to read, and we just guess at what the cards do based on their pictures. He then casts Return of the Wild Speaker, drawing 8 cards, and then plays and sacrifices Thrashing Brontodon to destroy Miguel's Swiftfoot boots. He ends his turn and discards down to 7. Mike plays Dragonlord Dramoka. As long as the Dragonlord is on the battlefield, none of Mike's opponents can cast any spells during his turn, but he still can. Then Mike cracks a fetch land. During his second main phase, I use Saheeli to make a copy of Ichor Wellspring, drawing the Everflowing Well off its ETB. And then I sacrifice a clue token to draw a Reliquary Tower, and I put a counter on my Drake. At the end of his turn, I sacrifice the copy of Ichor Wellspring and draw a mountain off its death trigger. On my turn, I draw Enthusiastic Mechanaut, then cast Jessica's Will, targeting Elder for 7 red mana, and exiling the top 3 cards in my library. This time I get a Mox Opal and 2 islands. 7 mana is a lot to get off of Jessica's Will, and just you wait to see what I can do with it. I play Mox Opal from exile, drawing another land. I also play one of the islands from exile. Then I play Everflowing Well, drawing Mana Drain thanks to Joyra. The Well's ETB has me mill 2 cards, a land and a portal to Phyrexia. I am very happy to see the portal go to my graveyard, and you'll see why. The Well's second ETB trigger has me draw 2 cards, a Windfall and Duretti Scrap Savant. Next, I play an Overloaded Vandal Blast to destroy all my opponent's artifacts. Elder pops his 6 treasures for 2 of each of his colors before they get destroyed. I cast Duretti Scrap Savant. Elder casts Enlightened Tutor, putting the 1 ring on top of his library. And after he is done searching and shuffling, I use Duretti's -2 ability to sacrifice Cursed Mirror and bring Portal to Phyrexia into play. When it ETBs, each opponent has to sacrifice 3 creatures. Then I use Saheeli's ability to copy the portal, making them sacrifice 3 more creatures and completely wiping their boards. I attack Elder for 4 and Miguel for 10. At the end of my turn, I sacrifice the portal and return Cursed Mirror to my hand thanks to Scrap Trawler's triggered ability. Then I discard 3 lands from my hand to get down to 7. Oh, and remember that 7 mana I got from Jessica's Will? Well, I didn't, and it all went to waste. Miguel plays Finale of Devastation for X = 6, searching out a Druid of Purification. I've become the archenemy, so my opponents conspire to destroy 3 of my artifacts. They destroy Scrap Trawler, Portal to Phyrexia, and Everflowing Well. I target one of my own permanents that was dying anyways, because the only valid targets my opponents have are keeping Elder's commander under control right now. When my portal is destroyed, it triggers Scrap Trawler and allows me to return Scrap Trawler from my graveyard to my hand. Elder plays a land and then plays the 1 ring, but I counter it with Mana Drain. He then casts Wayward Sword Tooth. He has exactly 10 permanents in play, so he has the City's Blessing, and the Sword Tooth is able to attack and block as normal. On Mike's turn, he sets himself up for some early card advantage with a turn 8 Esper Sentinel. I draw Reckless Fireweaver and play a land. Then I cast Enthusiastic Mechanaut and draw Spellskite. I really should have played Reckless Fireweaver first so that I could get a little extra damage in, since it pings my opponents for 1 whenever an artifact comes into play on my side. I play Spellskite, draw an island, and miss out on pinging my opponents yet again. Finally, I wise up and play Reckless Fireweaver, followed by Blightsteel Colossus, drawing Mystic Remora, dealing 1 damage to each opponent. I use Saheeli to make a copy of Blightsteel, ping for 1, and attack Elder with my Blightsteel token, and attack Miguel with the 5/5 Drake and with Jorah. And I also attack Mike with my 11/11 Construct token. Elder gets 6 poison counters after blocking with his dinosaur, which dies, and the others take their 11 and 8 damage. I play Mystic Remora, replay Scrap Trawler, ping for 1, and draw Phyrexian Metamorph. I sacrifice the Blightsteel token at the end of my turn and put another counter on my Drake. I should have activated Doretti's +1 ability this turn so that I could reanimate Portal to Phyrexia next turn, but I forgot. On Miguel's turn, he plays Nyxbloom Ancient, which triples all of his mana production. Elder plays and cracks a fetch land before playing Turn Timber Symbiosis, which lets him look at the top 7 cards of his library and put a creature card into play from among them. Unluckily for him, but lucky for me, he doesn't find one, and his spell completely whiffs. I also forgot to ask Elder if he was paying the 4 for my Mystic Remora attacks, so I probably missed out on drawing a card here. Mike plays Grand Abolisher, abolishing any hope he still had of winning this game. I draw Kappa Cannoneer and then activate Doretti's +1 ability, discarding Windfall and drawing the 1 ring. I play my turtle, draw a Master Transmuter, put a +1/+1 counter on my turtle, and my Fireweaver pings for 1. Saheeli makes a copy of Blightsteel, my Fireweaver pings, and I forget to put a second counter on the turtle. I also forgot to pay for Mystic Remora, so that dies. I attack Elder with the Blightsteel copy, and Mike with the real one. I also attack Miguel with my Drake, which is now a 6/6, and the Construct, which is currently an 11/11, along with my 2/2 Mechanaut, for a total of 19. Mike plays Teferi's Protection, but I cast Fierce Guardianship to counter it. Mike asks if I pay the extra 1 for his Esper Sentinel tax, and I do. Mike chump blocks with his Abolisher and receives 9 poison counters. Elder uses Iganjo, Seed of the Empire, to kill my Goblin out of spite before he dies to the Blightsteel. It's like spitting on my shoes as he falls into his grave. Miguel blocks the Construct and takes 6 from the Drake. I play the 1 ring, draw Trash for Treasure, forget to ping, and pass the turn. On his turn, Miguel casts Apex Devastator, cascading 4 times. The first cascade trigger reveals Worldly Tutor, which he casts to search out a Galta to put on top of his library. The second cascade reveals Galta, which he casts for free, and Galta's ETB trigger puts 4 large creatures into play from his hand, among them Apex Altasaur, Endrace Forerunners, and Zopandel Hunger Dominus. Apex Altasaur's ETB triggers targeting Urza, but I redirect the ability to Spellskite. It's a good thing I had Spellskite on the board, because if I hadn't, the Altasaur's Enrage ability would have chained off and killed most of my creatures. The third cascade trigger reveals a ramp spell, which puts a land into play from his library tapped. He draws a card off some trigger, I'm not sure how, puts another creature into play from the final cascade trigger, and draws another card somehow. To be honest, I kind of didn't know what was going on during this turn, and I still can't figure it out. But those are the broad strokes. He then casts Song of the Dryad on my Colossus, turning it into a Forest 2, just like Elder's Commander. And then he casts another creature of some kind. Miguel then attacks a defenseless Mike for 14 damage. Mike draws a card for his turn, and then decides to cycle a land from his hand. He pays a cycling cost, discards a land from his hand, and draws another land, which he then puts into play. On my turn, I use Saheeli to make a copy of Kappa Cannoneer. I attack Miguel for 6 with the original turtle and Mike for 5. This would be lethal damage for both of them. However, Miguel has a trick up his sleeve and plays Fog, preventing all combat damage from being dealt this turn. I start to wonder if Miguel is going to steal this win from me, because there's no way I'll be able to defend against his dinosaur army when his turn comes around. However, I still have Reckless Fireweaver on the field, and both of my surviving opponents are on single-digit life totals. I tap the 1 ring to draw Grim Monolith. Then I play Master Transmuter, drawing Myr Battlesphere, and ping both players. Next, I play Grim Monolith, drawing Cyclonic Rift, and ping again, finally putting Mike out of his misery. Next, I play Phyrexian Metamorph, drawing threefold Thunderhulk, and have the Metamorph copy Gleaming Geardrake, which makes another clue token when it comes into play, and ping Miguel twice. Finally, with Miguel at 1 life, I play Trash for Treasure to close out the win.
Whew. It's over! Damn, James. You took everyone out, bro.
It's over. We're going to feel like Joe Rogan.
And still, the champion. Damn, James.
Can I interest you in a cigarette?
Oh, you don't have to. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. I thought you had it there, Miguel. I thought you had it.